Hello and welcome to the Parents Panel discussion as part of the NUI Galway Open Day. My name is Caroline Duggan and I'm a Student Recruitment Officer here at the university. And hopefully you will find this discussion of benefit to you as you support your son and daughter making that transition from secondary school to third level. So we've quite a lot to cover today. So I'm going to begin by introducing our panel to you. Firstly, we have Mary Liddy. Mary, you can maybe raise your hand there and say hello. Mary is Deputy Admissions Officer at the university. Then we have John Hannon. John is Director of Student Services here at the university. Next we have Mary Gain, and Mary is from Sligo and has 2 daughters and a son, both studying at the university. Then we have Dr. Conor Hanley. Conor is a lecturer in law at the College of Business, Public Policy and Law at the university. Then we have Colette Gill. Colette is Administrative Assistant in the Fees Office here at the university. Our next panel member is Marie Laffey, and Marie is Head of the Career Development Centre at NUI Galway. And finally, we're joined by Joanna Walsh, who is Marketing Manager for the International Office at NUI Galway. So thank you for joining me today. Mary, can I begin with you? Many students and I suppose parents are in the throes of the CAO applications, but can you tell me maybe a little bit about some of the important deadlines that are coming up over the next few months?
Yes, Caroline, thank you. And I'm sure that most of the parents and perhaps their Leaving Cert children who are listening at the moment have already applied through the CAO by the 1st of February. We know most people do. In the unlikely event that somebody has missed that date, the 1st of May, which is coming up very shortly, is the late closing date. So all is not lost, you can still apply. Now, on May the 5th, from May the 5th up to July the 1st is a very important time for people who have made applications, because in that window of time, change of mind can be exercised. So the things we would need to remind you of for this period of time, the change of mind period, is to check carefully the courses you have indicated on your CAO form and remember to place the course you most want in first place, and thereafter put your course choices in genuine order of preference. I'd be telling you during this time to help you with that process and to help you to make as good and as correct an application as you can, to do a lot of research, ask about the courses. If you have any sense of indecision or if there's anything that you don't know and you need to know, contact us, ask questions. So they're the main things I need to say to you. And I would also say at this juncture, because people may be wondering, probably the most important date of all in relation to the CAO and the universities is the date of round 1 offers. And regrettably, I can't tell you at this point when round 1 offers are going to issue, because that will depend in the first instance on when the Leaving Cert results are available. And we haven't as yet been made aware of that. So yeah, that's the unknown, unfortunately, the unknown in the mix at the moment. Thank you, Caroline.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you. John, I'm going to come to you next. I suppose it's still unknown what effect COVID will have on college life for students starting in September. But maybe can you give us a sense of how our services adopted to support the students this year, and perhaps maybe starting with orientation?
Thanks very much, Caroline, and hello, everybody. Yes, I suppose the first thing that we did was to make sure that we got together and we coordinated, and orientation is really, really important because we were the only actually university that had a physical orientation last year, where people did come on campus, and every first year got an opportunity to come on campus, meet their academic staff and the support staff, and meet their mentors, and that was really important. Well, we started way before that physical. We had every single student was contacted as soon as we knew from the CAO, as Mary mentioned. Once we knew the names, we got in contact with the students, and we made sure that we contacted by phone every single student. Our chaplaincy were fantastic in that way, in contacting the students, checking in with them, seeing what their needs were, and we had a hotline that went on from there. And that was really important, just to check in, because it's a tough time, and particularly around the people who might be first generation who come for the first time, or indeed who have brothers and sisters with a very different scenario. But of course, you know, the things did change, and most things went online as a result of the government and the necessary health and safety measures that every college had to take. So we were really wanted to make sure that people would get the kind of online material that was necessary. So we focused very much on getting our frequently asked questions, getting our website together, but also the very practical support that was really needed. So for example, financial support, we were able to double the amount of money for disadvantaged students. And of course they could apply online, and those who needed could meet online with the supports that were there. We quadrupled actually the number of student mentors that we had, so that every student would have a connection there in order to meet other students. And there were first year students in their groups, but a mentor is an older student. We also had a laptop loan scheme. So we had almost 1,000 laptops to loan. And alongside that, then of course, we had online events, a whole series of things. Our societies, for example, ran nearly 500 events in the first semester alone. And our student counselling is there. We developed a text. So NUI Galway, NUIG 50808, a text help there that was open 24/7. So I suppose we tried to look at the well-being of the students, the financial and the practical academic support as well. So I'm really proud, I suppose, of the connection that we made with the students, because obviously they're crucial and core to everything that we do.
Great, thanks, John. Thanks. That's a really comprehensive answer. Hopefully that'll give great comfort to lots of parents. Conor, I suppose I just want to come to you next. You're a very experienced lecturer. Hundreds and hundreds of students have passed through your lecture theatres over the last number of years. But can you just give us an idea maybe of what you see as being the greatest challenge students face when making that transition from secondary school to third level?
Well, I suppose that just picking up from what John was saying, one of the big problems is obviously just making the transition itself, going from second level into third level, especially for students who are moving away from home, leaving their support networks behind, their family behind. They're pretty much on their own. And John has mentioned a variety of the support services and networks available within the university to try to help deal with that. But that's obviously going to be a big transition. The second one, and more on the academic side, is the independence that students have when they come to college. They're coming from the second level environment where things are pretty much very structured. There is somebody ensuring that they turn up to class, ensuring they've done their homework, ensuring that they're ready to go for the class, none of which is going to be there when they come to college. And on one level, that's a great thing, that this kind of newfound sense of freedom of responsibility, but it's also very disorienting, and students can find that level of independence very difficult to navigate, very difficult to deal with. In terms of the actual material they'll be studying, they've all demonstrated through their Leaving Cert results and the points that they got, they've demonstrated they have the ability. It's really being able to navigate the independence that's suddenly thrust upon them. Most students do it well. Sometimes students need a bit of help in doing so. Obviously, they're welcome to come to us, to their lecturers. They can come to the law school office, to the head of school, and sit down and talk. And there are a variety of academic support services around the university as well.
That's great. Thank you, Conor. Thanks. I'm going to come to you next, Colette, because I just want to talk about, I suppose, the fees associated with attending university. So can you give us an indication of what fees parents need to be aware of?
Thanks, Caroline. You're all very welcome to NUI Galway on our virtual open day. Undergraduate fees, they're made up of three parts. There's a tuition element, a student contribution charge, and a student levy. The tuition element is the cost associated with teaching. It may be covered by the Irish government. And in order to have it covered, as in the government will pay it for you, you need to satisfy some criteria. And the criteria are, you need to be a full-time student, your course needs to be a minimum of 2 years, you should never have been in third level before, you need to be an Irish or an EU national, you also need to have residency in Ireland or the EU for 3 of the last 5 years. The second part to any undergraduate fee is a student contribution charge. It's a set fee of €3,000 and it covers the costs associated with student services, examinations, admissions, registration, fees, the library services and IT services. It's payable by all students. However, if you apply for a means-tested grant to SUSE, that's the Student Universal Support in Ireland, and you qualify for a grant, they will pay that €3,000 on your behalf. If you don't qualify for the grant, you'll have to pay it yourself. The third part of any fee is the student levy, currently at €224, and it covers things like sports clubs, sports societies, the Students' Union, Orson Maclean, the Health Unit and the Student Project Fund. It's payable by all students, irrespective as to whether you're on a grant or not. So Caroline, in a nutshell, if you qualify for free fees, and the vast majority of students do, and you don't qualify for a grant, you pay €3,224 per annum. If you do qualify for a grant, you pay €224 per annum.
That's great. Thanks, Colette. That's very, very clear. Thank you. Mary, I'm going to come to you next in Sligo, the wonders of technology. And I thank you for joining us because I know you're working as a volunteer vaccinator. Can I just ask you, you have a son and 2 daughters at NUI Galway. So how involved were you in helping your son and daughters through the CAO process?
Well, my daughters really not at all. My daughters both were very strong in what they wanted to do, and they both sort of did the research on what was required, what they needed, leaving cert and other sort of applications. So they were sort of sorted. My son was less sure. He didn't feel really strongly about anything. So I suppose we were always talking about it. We went to open days in various places, looked at courses. And again, I kind of felt strongly, I would say to him, if you're looking at a course, where's it leading to? What are you going to do afterwards? What does it allow you to do? Because I think that's very important rather than just doing something for the sake of it. So sorry about that. We did that and came up with a course that gave him a more of a broad-based set of options when he was finished. That kind of lent itself to strengths that had come through in school, but did open up options for him when he was finished.
That's great. Thanks, Mary. That's great advice, actually, that if a student is unsure, maybe going with something broad and keeping your options open can be a very good route. So thanks for that, Mary. Marie, I'm going to come to you next because I suppose a question I get asked quite a lot is, what kind of a career will a student get out of a particular course? And I'm just wondering, what consideration should parents of Leaving Cert students be giving to future careers when their son or daughter is filling out the CAO?
Hi, Caroline, and thanks for having me here today. I'm just going to follow on exactly what Mary has said there and really follow up on her point that I think it's important when students are choosing a career that they're really choosing something they're interested in. That's really important because they're going to be studying this program for 3 to 4 years and then obviously looking at it as a career. And sometimes, they might be good at a particular subject, but that might not be their interest, you know, or their friends might be choosing a course and they want to go and be with their friends. So I think it's really consider what they're interested in. And as Mary has said earlier there, it's where's that course going to bring you? What are the options for that course in terms of a career? And also look at, and back to what Mary said regarding researching the program, researching the course. I think there's a lot of students will look at the first year of the course and they don't look at the subsequent years, where there's subject choices that could be merit based, and then they may not be left with the option that they wanted. So really looking beyond the first year, look really in depth at the course. And I think most importantly, I said currently in today's market, work experience is very important. So I would really encourage parents and students to look at programs that offer work placement, work-based learning, whether it's on site with an employer or work-based learning projects, because from an employer's perspective, that's what they're really interested in when they come to on the graduate market, that they have something to talk about, that they've got experience, real life work experience in the sector. And most importantly for the student, it actually informs them whether they're interested in this career or not. And I always go back to a little story where I had a mechanical engineer who had just finished his placement come in and ask, well, how did the placement go? And he said, well, it was really good. It has informed me that I don't want to do mechanical engineering. So, you know, so it's just as good as informing your career choice and giving you work experience for the students. So I would really encourage parents to look at programs. And here in NUI Galway, over 90% of our programs have a work placement element in it.
That's great advice. Thanks, Marie. Thank you. Joanna, I'm going to come to you next, because the power of technology means that hopefully today we are being joined by lots of international parents and students. So can you tell us a little bit, you know, what would be the one piece of advice you would give students around their study visa application, Joanna?
Okay, yeah, and I'm delighted to welcome all to the Open Day here today. We'll have students joining us from all over the globe, from India, China, Nigeria, and the visa process varies a lot. So in the first instance, if a student is unsure whether or not they require a study visa, check the International Office website, and there's an extensive list of all of the countries of visa exempted and visa required countries. So then the next step, if you do need your study visa, you need to check and see if there's an Irish embassy located in the country. For example, there's one in New Delhi in India, in Abuja in Lagos in Nigeria. So the visa applications will be processed at those centres. So you can check and see the processing times. But our advice is to students to commence their application as soon as they possibly can. Even at this point, we're already seeing students from India submitting their visa applications, submitting payment of the tuition fees so that they can apply for their study visa. So do it in plenty of time, check in with the local embassy in terms of the processing times, and of course check in with the staff of the International Office, and we're happy to advise. And just one other point then, for students coming from countries that don't require a study visa, they can bring their letter of acceptance with them in case it's checked upon on the entering the country at the airport, and they will be required to register their presence in Ireland. So register their presence in the Irish state, but not to worry about this. The International Office, as part of orientation, will coordinate those appointments for them. So they can wait until they attend the orientation events, and then we'll give them advice in terms of when to book in with the local immigration office and register their presence in the country.
That's great. Thank you, Joanna. Mary, I'm going to come back to you, because, I mean, a question I suppose I get asked a lot is, do we expect points to rise this year? So can you pull out maybe your crystal ball there and give us some advice on what about points?
I wish I had a crystal ball, Caroline, that would reveal the situation we're going to be confronted with this year. Unfortunately, I don't. We all know what happened last year. Students, Leaving Cert students' results were based purely on calculated grades. The calculated grades favoured the students really in general. There was a big increase in points and a consequent increase in the cut-off points needed for courses. What I would say to people, and I think without the crystal ball at hand, the only thing you could say that is sensible is don't get hung up on the points for 2020. there's no guarantee that they'll be as high this year. This year we're looking at a totally different scenario again, where students are being given an option, a choice of whether to actually sit exams, to opt for calculated grades, or a combination of the two. So it's really difficult to even envisage what might happen this year. What I would say to students is it would make a lot of sense not only to look at 2020 points, but to look at 2019 points also, to give yourself maybe a slightly more middle of the road or realistic sense of where the points are likely to go this year. But don't be defeated, or don't be, you know, dismayed at the increase that occurred last year. That may not be the case this year.
Thanks, Mary. Fantastic piece of logical advice there. So thank you. John, I want to come to you because accommodation is always a concern for parents and students. And I'm just wondering, you know, what advice would you give to parents around accommodation?
Yes, Caroline, having a safe and a comfortable space is absolutely essential to have a good experience. It's really, really important. And that about 60% of our students indeed do look for accommodation. And the Minister for Higher Education has indicated that we will be back on campus, thankfully. So that's really, really important to have that safe, comfortable space. And we have an accommodation office to support that. And I suppose it's really, really important to remember that there are options there, and it is always advisable to book well in advance. Any point from now on, and indeed many people have booked already. So it's just really important to remember that, broadly speaking, there are two types of student accommodation. The first of these is student residences, on campus and off campus. These are spaces that are particularly geared towards students pretty much only. So it's possible actually to get a virtual tour of the rooms that are available. You can contact them. They're all on our accommodation website. If you look, just Google accommodation in UI Galway, you'll get the list of the various options that are there, for example, and many of the residences are still taking bookings, which is really good news. But that doesn't suit everybody. Some people much prefer to get the private accommodation, which is the second option. So there are a whole host of different options in relation to that. But what is really important is to remember that you can start from one point. And that's inuigstudentpad.ie, inuigstudentpad.ie. And there you'll get the various options. You'll be able to see the accommodation that is currently available, and that changes over time. So it will be, a lot of that accommodation will become available over the summer. So you can arrange with individual landlords to hear exactly what is available, whether you are viewing, whatever is required. And it's really important. So you're talking about the traditional digs type accommodation. You're talking about renting a house. There are lots of different options. And then there are also, it's important to remember that some people will like short-term accommodation in a B&B, in a hotel, and that can suit some as well for a short period. So it's important to remember, yes, accommodation is available. Be aware of what is needed. So start that in UI Galway student pad, check through that, get support from the university around that in terms of the options, check it out and do that early so that you have the comfort that that support is there, and we have the fundamentals. We all need the roof over our head and feel comfortable for the year ahead.
That's great. Thanks, John. Thank you. Mary, I'm going to stay on the accommodation theme because obviously coming from Sligo, your girls and your son had an accommodation requirement. So I know in first year, the two girls stayed on campus. And then this year, it has also worked out very well for them because the three of them are sharing a house. So you've got experience of both. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, the girls went into, they joined NUIG in the same year, and they both went on campus. And one of them went to the new accommodation and one went to the old accommodation. So comparing those on the opening day was a bit, looking at Corrib Village. However, we tarted it up, we made it our own and whatever. And then, the comparison between the two was not quite as stark once their own bits and pieces were in it. But what we found as the year progressed was being there in the middle of everything meant everything to them. They absolutely loved it. They made friends, they got involved in things, and it was really a huge part of them settling in and feeling that they belonged there. This year, with the COVID crisis and all the limitations, the fact that we did manage to get the 3 of them into the same house worked really in our favour because of the familiarity of them. I think living with strangers and not being able to go out, you know, that whole confinement thing could have made it much more difficult, but it did work out for them. So that was just lucky. But again, with 3 of them, having them in the same house kind of cut our costs a bit. We were able to negotiate that kind of thing, you know, because the cost is a huge sort of part of your decision making when you're looking for accommodation.
Great, thanks Mary, thank you for that advice. Conor, I might come to you next because I want to talk a little bit about work placement and indeed study abroad opportunities. So both of those are heavily available on the law programs, but how do those opportunities enhance learning for students?
Enormously, Caroline, enormously. It's so much so, in fact, that as you said, we've restructured all of our law programs to build this opportunity into it. All of our students in year 3 will have the opportunity either for an internship or to study abroad. If we look at an internship first, the obvious benefit is that students get to see the law in action. They get immersed in some aspect of the law. The internship might be with some NGO, it might be with a government department, it might be with a firm of solicitors or with a barrister. There's a variety of options available. And they will be thrown into the law and they'll see it in all of its sometimes dubious glory. They'll see what lawyers really get up to. They'll see how the law really works, its strengths and its weaknesses. It will give them direct experience, which is obviously very important, as it has been mentioned already. And it will also give them an opportunity to test some of their own preconceptions about their career plans. You know, a student might come into college thinking, I want to be a solicitor. I definitely want to be a solicitor. I'm only going to be a solicitor. Then they spend a year working with a solicitor and they realize, I don't want to be a solicitor. And that's a really good thing. That's a very positive thing. Much better to find that out during your education than once you've actually become a solicitor. So all of those are very strong benefits, but I think the primary one is just the immersion into the law in practice. As far as study abroad is concerned, there are multiple benefits. Obviously, any student that's taking a language, we very much encourage them to go abroad on the Erasmus program, where they will be immersed in that country, in France or Germany, Italy, Spain, and you know they can't help but just develop their language skills. So that's enormous. But outside of that, just the benefit of living in a foreign country. It's an education in itself. Even a country that seems very familiar, like the United States. I got to spend 4 years in the US. We all think we know America because we see it all the time on television, in the movies and all of that. It's a very different country. Even though we've got a common language, it's a very different country. And obviously then if you go into countries like China, which is entirely different, the personal education of living in a foreign country is immense. Students get the opportunity to take subjects that are simply not available here. So one of our partner universities in Australia has a major center for the study of human trafficking because of their proximity to Southeast Asia. That's an issue that is not taught in Irish law schools. And of course, they also get an opportunity to see how other countries are dealing with the same kind of problems that we're trying to deal with, which might lead them to a greater appreciation of Ireland, or it may you know, awaken a realization that things need to change in Ireland. Either way, that's a great educational benefit. So we absolutely endorse the notion of study abroad. It's something that I didn't do as part of my undergrad. I was lucky I got a second chance to go and study in the US. So from personal experience, it's a tremendous opportunity and I absolutely endorse it for any student.
Thanks, Connor. Thank you. Colette, I want to come back to you because during your last response, you mentioned Susie Grant, okay? And I suppose could you explain to parents how they can determine if they're eligible, if their child is eligible for a Susie Grant?
I can, and Caroline, when I'm asked this question at any open day, I always refer the parents back to the Susie website. There on the website, there's a ready reckoner, and you'll be able to input your financial information, and it'll give you a broad idea of whether you're going to be eligible or not. So we always refer parents back to the Susie website. And it's open now for September 2021 applications. Even though you don't have your place in third level yet, it's always worth starting the process now.
That's great. Thank you for that, Colette. Thanks. Marie, I just want to talk a little bit about, because it has come up now a few times, work placement. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about the links that NUI Galway has with its industry partners?
Yeah, absolutely, Caroline. So I suppose in a broad sense, university-wide, employers are involved across many facets, from partnering with research, influencing curriculum, guest lecturing, master lectures, and so on. Specifically for the CDC, partnering with employers is really an integral part of the work that we do, because it's so important to connect students with employers. So for example, in the Career Development Centre, we would run 90 plus employer events every year, and that would range from employers delivering skills workshops such as CV, interviewing skills, networking, building your personal brand, and so on. Some employers would just come in and present about their companies, the opportunities, internships or graduate opportunities. Also, we run an Employer of the Week, so we focus in on an employer, and they would take over maybe our social media, write a blog, run a skills event, and so on for us. And for us, then we run our flagship event. We would run a careers fair, a graduate fair in October every year, and we would have normally 100 plus employers attend that. And then that's in the first semester, and then in our second semester we run more sector specific fairs. So we would have our law fair in partnership with Connor, and also our teaching fair, and we run a summer internship fair as well in the second semester. I think in addition to that as well, we have an employability award, and this really is very important for the students who don't have placement. And so some programs don't have placement, so giving them the opportunity to build their skills and employability skills through their own part-time work. And then one of the criteria they do is they have to attend employer events, whether it's a skills event by an employer or employer presentation, that we really want to connect them with employers. That employability award is a President's Award. It goes on their diploma supplement at the end of their graduation, and particularly for students who don't have a placement, it really gives them that competitive edge in terms of the market, and have something to talk about with employers. And it also gives them, shows that self-directed learning, and that they're doing something outside of their course, which is so important to employers to see when they come at the graduate recruitment. And then Connor talked about placement, work placement and law. So on average, every semester we support in the Career Development Centre about 30 programs who have placement ranging from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to a year. Some of those are international work placements all over Europe. And we probably have an average reach out to employers, just an initial reach out, this doesn't include the follow-up reach out, of about, I would say, 6,000 to 8,000 reach outs in that semester alone. And so that tells you the amount of employers that we have on our database in order to secure those jobs. And even with COVID, it has been difficult, but we've actually achieved our 100% in placing our students. So that's been fantastic. And that's down to the testimony of the relationships that we have with employers and what we do in the CDC to build that, not just with placement, but in the career delivery, career advice side as well. So there's lots of activity for employers and lots of opportunity for also students to become employer ambassadors. So if you've been on work placement, employers like the students to be their ambassador to promote their brand on campus as well. So that's another opportunity for students to get involved with employers.
Great, thanks, Marie. So that is no mean achievement to achieve 100% in
Yeah.
COVID, that's for sure. So well done to all. Joanna, I want to come back to you because just for the, the international parents and students listening to this, if they have, they need some more information, what are you offering for those students in terms of events, etc.?
Oh yes, yeah, we're happy to help. So one of the benefits of the virtual world, we've extended our geographical reach and we're a lot more available now. So we're happy to be participating in this open day. We're doing both the undergraduate, postgraduate open day. And aside from that, you can contact any of the staff members at any time. But we have a bumper calendar of events, and we do hope to be doing some road shows into 2022. So for a calendar of the events, you can check the International Office website and particularly your country page. We would participate in Education in Ireland events. So if there's a roadshow in India or the US, we would participate in that. And in addition, we have a network of educational agents or representatives. So we're in constant contact with these representatives. And there's a list of all of these on the Your Country section of our website. So those staff are well trained and they're all up to date with all of the university offerings, and we also participate in those events. And then just to give insight into the student experience, we have a panel of 40 international student ambassadors. They're all very active on Instagram. So if you connect with any of the social media channels, you can engage with these students. Indeed, they do panel discussions as part of the open day. They'll have that later on. You can engage, you can get insight into their experience. And it's just a fabulous way to find out more. One of the blogs, for example, is A Day in the Life. So we recommend that just to get the student insight as well.
That's great. Thank you, Joanna. The student ambassadors always, they also have great insight and they're so good to share it with students who are thinking. So that's really fabulous. Mary, I'm going to come back to you because you are our parent on the panel, and with 3 students at NUI Galway, you've been through it all. So I just wanted to ask you, if there was one piece of advice you would give the parents of the Leaving Cert class of 2021, what would that be?
One piece of advice is probably split into 2, is encourage their independence. They can do it. And encourage them to come back home and bring their friends.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Thank you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, keep them rooted.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all for joining us today and listening to our panel discussion. Hopefully you will find a benefit, and please make sure to visit the Q&A sections of the virtual open day today. Make sure you talk and reach out to all the academics and students who are online today, because we're all here to help you make an informed decision and to help your son or daughter likewise. So thank you.